A very warm welcome to Arts Ambassador, Children's Advocate, accomplished actor, unapologetic spokesperson for being bloody decent, the wonderful Leonie Hazlehurst.
Hello.
Now, where did Leonie come from? I believe it was your mum's name, but how did it become Noni?
Well, Mum was Lee and I was sort of what was left of Leonie with an N on the front. So I was always called Noni at home. It was only at primary school that I was called Leonie. I've never gone back to it because I don't like the way Australians say Leonie. It really drives me nuts. So I get Naomi and Noni and all sorts with Noni, but at least I get Noni a lot of the time, which is great. In view of an extended family, because they were migrants, we didn't have any family here. My role models were the great variety artists who were on television. Carol Burnett.
I'm Miss Collins, Bubba's teacher.
Oh, how do you do?
Dean Martin, Danny Kaye. So my parents would talk to me about why they were so good, and impress upon me that you had to be able to do everything. You know, you had to sing, you had to dance, you had to be able to do comedy, funny accents, all sorts of things. What they didn't prepare me, though, for was the rest of the world. So it was such a sheltered, small life that I lived as a child that I really, when I finally went to university at 17, I was completely gobsmacked by, you know, this overwhelming sense that I was such a tiny little sprat in a huge ocean. So, it was very much a blinkered existence. But in many ways, I suppose you don't know it's weird until you get a bit older and you look back and think, oh, gee, that wasn't very typical of other people around me, was it?
As you moved into your career, you began playing predictable blondes on the box, moving through different iterations at Crawford's, and gradually emerging as someone who played strong representations of people that society generally likes to judge, and you copped a bit of pushback for that. In the book, you mentioned criticism of Fran,
Been entertaining the boss after hours, friend.
a struggling young single mum for whom life throws up hardships time and time again. Some viewers felt the fault lay with Fran herself. Why did some people miss the obvious point?
Well, because I think we live in a culture where we're encouraged to judge other people. We're set up in a very combative time to view the world as us versus them, whoever they are. So I think it's very difficult for us to not judge other people, even though we may be making those judgments based on assumptions or generalizations. You know, we can never really know someone's story unless we ask. And I think, characters like Fran and Elizabeth Bligh in A Place to Call Home.
Well, George is simply playing Good Samaritan to a woman he hardly knows.
When you see those people, you do make instant judgments about them, but when you scratch the surface and you realise that, walk a mile in their shoes and you'll understand why they are the way they are, often through no fault of their own, then you can start to have empathy. And to me, the arts are about people connecting with each other and reaching out and saying, oh, gee, actually, we share more similarities as human beings than differences, even though our judgment based on your appearance might be that we have nothing in common.
Well, run the test again.
We have several times. We've run every possible test and cross-checked. We don't make the decisions, the results do.
You are not turning those machines off.
Margaret, he's got...
I am talking to the doctor.
Richard has no brain function. His whole body has shut down.
I am talking to the doctor.
I love the empathy you have for your characters, even those who are harbouring overwhelming bigotry. Yet good writing and acting show us why we believe what we do, and with some restructuring, we can actually change and get it right. Like the homophobic mum in Red Fern Now.
I bumped into a man leaving your house at 7 a.m. He'd spent the night there.
His name was Louis.
You don't know his surname?
No,
Where'd you meet Louis?
on the internet.
Some sex chat line?
Yes, but we didn't have sex, as it turns out.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was a bit drunk. All we did was cuddle. I was grieving.
You were drunk?
A bit.
My granddaughter was in your care.
You brought a delicacy to her character that a lot of people would not have been aware of. It brings promise of change, which makes the arts so worthwhile.
Yeah, I think we do have an opportunity to change at any given moment. It's a matter of will. I mean, if you stop learning, you may as well drop dead because nobody knows everything. My acting mentor, Larry Moss, this wonderful acting coach from America, said something to me when I was 60 and I did a workshop with him and he changed my life. He said, they don't come to see you, they come to see themselves. So all I have to do is tell the story to the best of my ability and do my due diligence and my homework and create a character that's as three-dimensional as you know, the person watching is. And that's the great challenge, you know, to reach inside my experience, my toolbox of what I've lived through, and bring, you know, how would I react in that situation if I'd lived that life? And I think if you ask that question of anybody, you'll come up with some answers that maybe you didn't think of when you just first glanced at them and made a judgment.
That's a fact of life. So it's got nothing to do with bigotry and everything to do with the safety of my little granddaughter. And that is why full custody should be awarded to me.
On the subject of missing the point, there was that delightful outrage on the ABC over your beautiful recording of Go the Fuck to Sleep.
Noni, your most recent literary reading has created some controversy. And whilst we live in an increasing secular society, do you think that you've contributed to the continued weakening of moral and ethical standards by the normalisation of such language?
OK, now hang on. Let's take a look at the book reading that Santo is asking about first, and then we'll know what we're talking about.
Hello. The story today is about a little baby who doesn't want to go to sleep. And the baby is making Mummy and Daddy very tired. Do you know a baby like that? Here's the story. The cats nestle close to their kittens. The lambs have lain down with the sheep. You're cosy and warm in your bed, my dear. Please go the fuck to sleep.
Now, Noni,
It's brilliant.
the questioner asks, are you weakening the moral and ethical standards of the community?
All by myself.
No, there was a film crew there.
No, the reason that I wanted to do the book is because when I read it, I laughed like a drain because my oldest child was 2 before he slept through the night. And I also thought, because I did play school, that I should be able to cope with a small child. And I think one of the issues that faces parents is that they are totally and utterly shocked by the exhaustion that they feel.
Now, you must have known it would hit the fan the moment you opted to record that lovely storybook, right?
I just thought it was hilarious because my first child was 2 before he slept through the night. It didn't occur to me for a moment that people would be so asinine as to suggest that I was betraying, you know, my play school children. I mean, if you couldn't work out it wasn't for children, there's something seriously wrong with you. It was just a very funny, very clever book. I wish I'd written the damn thing because he made a fortune. He went on to do another one called Why Won't You Fucking Eat, which was just also aimed at his toddler. The reason I did it was because I was ashamed that I couldn't get my child to sleep. I sort of felt that I should be able to do it because I was on play school. I knew, you know, I knew how to make things out of toilet roll holders. I mean, it didn't occur to me that a lot of other people were feeling powerless in this situation too. And when I saw that book, I just went, oh, fantastic. And I got so much wonderful feedback from particularly women, but also men. They really related and they realised they weren't alone in their suffering.
You do get a kick from coming out of left field.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss NONI HAZLEHURST.
Tell me what that piece was about, erotic fan fiction.
Yes, that was a request initially from the Wheeler Centre, the Centre for Books and Ideas in Melbourne. And they put on these regular nights called erotic fan fiction, and they invite various people to just write something erotic. I was sort of inspired to use the play school toys.
The story today is called Kaya's Afternoon Tea with Friends, and it goes like this. Oh, hi everyone!
It's not something you'd get up and, you know, make a speech about anywhere else, really, behind the scenes activities. As my theme, which again had a similar effect, go the fuck to sleep. I think people were gasping for air, trying to sort of contain themselves. So I've done it a couple of times since.
I love your candidness when you're talking about the networks who, let's face it, are your bread and butter. Yet you're not reticent to mention times that they were out of line, like the time you were too old to be the female cop commander on City Homicide, but ended up getting help for your character from the Victorian crime commander, Christine Nixon, who was the same age as you.
That's
Also,
right.
I also love that you went to the producers when you saw PR stills for the show, and AARON Pedersen had been pushed so far into the background that it felt like there was some sort of message going on. When you raised it, did they even acknowledge the problem?
Oh, look, never acknowledge the problem. Much better to just sort of say, oh, well, that's the way it is and it's too late to do anything about it. Aaron himself had been getting some feedback from friends and family saying, you know, don't they like you anymore, bro?
You're real brave scaring a young girl like that, aren't you?
He was pretty hurt, and I just thought it was a bloody outrage, frankly, because he's one of the finest actors in Australia.
I love the story you recount about introducing yourself to Barb Redford on the set of Truth, and him looking straight through you and ignoring you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a moment that I wish the earth would swallow me up. I was playing a small but beautiful little role in this film called Truth, which was meant to be an American film, but we're all Australians apart from the leads, but shot in Australia. And Robert Redford was playing Dan Rather, the former host of 60 Minutes in America. I was playing the wife of Stacey Keach, who is an informant to the program about George W. Bush's military records. I had one scene with Redford in which I didn't speak, but he had to talk to my husband, Stacey Keach, in a hotel room before this interview that he was going to do on 60 Minutes. So Stacey and I are already on the set in the hotel room, and we hear on the walkie-talkies, you know, Barb's on approach, Barb's leaving the trailer, Barb's coming, Barb's in the corridor. And Barb walks in, and I hadn't been introduced to him at this point, and I'd been told he was a little bit hard of hearing. So he walked straight up to me with his hand out, and I shook his hand and said, oh, hello, Bob. I'm Noni, and I'm playing Stacey's wife.
I just wanted to come say hello before we get things going.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
He completely ignored me, went to shake Stacey's hand, and proceeded to start the scene. No one had told me that he didn't like to muck about. He just would walk in and go straight into a rehearsal, and I just felt so stupid. I must have gone all shades of beetroot, but fortunately he seemed pretty oblivious, so it was okay.
Why did you have to do 3 screen tests?
Because the director-writer was American and didn't know my work, and the part needed a certain something, and I guess he saw it in me, but he wanted to be sure, and I loved the role enough, even though it was small. It had one beautiful speech in it, which I had to deliver to Cate Blanchett and various other Hollywood heavyweights that was a bit intimidating, but that was perfect for the role.
Oh, don't you dare ask how Bill is. Bill is sick. He's a sick man. You don't give a damn about him. You just spent 2 hours trying to destroy him. You wanted to put the blame on him for all the things you did wrong putting this story together. You want to wrap it all up in a neat package and say it's all Bill Burkett's fault. Well, it's not, and you know it. And you promised when we came here to do this interview that we would get a fair shake. No, we got nothing from you but lies.
Nikki.
Yeah, you may think I am some stupid hick who doesn't know a damn thing about a damn thing. And you're so smart and such a big shot. But I keep my promises, and I don't destroy people to protect myself. I don't destroy people and humiliate them. And then pretend I give a goddamn about how they are. To answer your question, Bill is not good. But then you knew that already.
Yeah, I wanted to do it. If you really want something, you've got to go for it. And I was happy to.
But Dropping the Mask is an ironic title. The traditional icons for show business are the happy mask and the sad mask, which is all about putting on a face to suit the character, or perhaps that the audience will laugh and cry. Ultimately, the truth is that actors don't hide behind masks, they expose themselves. In a sense, you drop the mask every time you walk on stage. In fact, I get the impression that your whole life as an artist, as a person, is devoted to living without a mask.
Well, that's what I've come to after 71 times going around the sun. We all wear a mask in most situations, every time we go out the door or every time someone comes to visit. And often a relationship can founder when people who've been wearing, you know, I'm an easygoing person with no baggage mask, when that mask drops. I guess the point that I've come to, and a lot of older people, as you get older, people do often say this, that I'm just happy to be myself because, it's pointless trying to compete on any kind of young and beautiful level because I'm not. So I may as well be myself because who else am I going to be? But it took me a long time to really know who I was. My mother would say, don't let anyone know what you're really like, which sort of implied that I wasn't ever going to be good enough or acceptable if I didn't wear a mask. So in a sense, playing other characters was liberating because there were no consequences to my behaviour, if you like. I could play a character who was, deeply horrible or deeply rude or something, and it was in a safe environment. I didn't have to pretend I was a lovely, nice, sweet, innocent girl. So, that was the journey. And then you get to the point where you just think, all I am is me. There's only one of me. I'm not special, but I am unique.
There's a bear in there, and a chair as well.
You said there's no room for acting on Play School. So how did Play School teach you to be a better actor?
By teaching me to be more myself, in fact.
Hello.
Hello.
And also reminding me that it's important to play. The French word for acting is jouer, to play. And I was very much a performer as opposed to someone who was just being there. And so the skill was, to take a 32-page script with no auto cue that was rehearsed 4 times before taping, but to make it appear spontaneous. And to do that, you have to be present. You have to give the impression that this is the first time you've done any of this.
Do Peppino and Peppina wear clothes like us? No.
Whereas I was very much in the beginning, I was very much prepared and professional, and I was acting. I wasn't being, I wasn't playing. So to learn how to hold the attention of a 3 or 4-year-old was the lesson. And if you can do that with a child of that age, adults are easy.
Are their bodies covered with feathers or fur? Fish have scales.
Adults spend a fortune to find out how to be themselves. And as you point out, the supreme irony is that young children already know that.
Yes.
As kids, when do we start unlearning that?
I think when we go to school. School has an effect that tries to make us more uniform, obviously, for the ease of teaching. It's only been in the last couple of decades, really, that special needs children have been accommodated. It's really important that we recognise the neurodivergent people amongst us. We're all on some kind of spectrum.
Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree.
I've got no idea what normal means. The whole disparity between private schools and public schools is another thing that makes my blood boil. We live in a supposed liberal democracy. Why isn't public education funding available? What was the Gonski report for?
How many adults do you think watch Play School without kids at their side?
Well, I know that a lot of older children go watch Play School when they're homesick from school, so it obviously provides some kind of balm. And I think it's because we're talking to the camera as though it's one person. So you feel like you're having an interactive relationship with that person behind the camera. People say, oh, look, no one's affected by what they see on television. Well, why would people advertise if that was the truth? So, I think the world of Play School is one that is easy. It's not complicated, and it's talking to a child of that age in a language they can understand, and as you say, making no assumptions that they're good or clever or cooperative or quiet or pretty or handsome or any of those things. And we're saying make something out of what you've got, rather than don't you wish you had one of these, which was a philosophy I took actually into Better Homes and Gardens. I very much wanted my role in that to be just reflecting who I was. I was a mother with young kids in the middle of renovations. And so, what was I doing at the time? I was making school lunches, or I was in the garden, or, just stuff that felt real.
G'day, welcome to the program.
Now, I think the barbecue should go right there where you're standing.
Oh, yeah? Well, where's the clothesline going to go?
Better Homes and Gardens was essentially a commercial enterprise on a commercial network with a commercial magazine, and it was driven to make a profit. Did you ever find some tension between what you wanted to do to keep it real and natural and also the commercial drivers?
Yeah, there's always tension in those sorts of things. And in a way, I felt that the magazine didn't reflect the program in the sense that they hardly featured anything that I did in it at all. The main tension came from the network itself because, I talk about in the book, there was one situation I wrote all the openers and closers for the show. There was one instance where I talked about making a garden on a tray with a young child. And I said the best thing about it is that my son hasn't asked to watch television all afternoon. And they asked me to re-record it without the reference to turning off the television, which just seems so ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Another time that we were in the middle of a dreadful drought, I just thought I'd pass on the idea that if you put a bucket under your kitchen tap and before the hot water comes in, that you waste a lot of cold. So why not fill a bucket and use it for the garden? And they said it was too worthy. We don't want to talk about drought because everything's always perfect on Better Homes and Gardens. So, there were those little things that they didn't really want me to reflect reality, just their version of reality as far as I could push it.
Noni, thank you so much for this interview.
My pleasure.
It's a real honour to chat with you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks for doing your homework. I really appreciate you reading the book and, showing signs of having read the book. I appreciate it very much.
It was an absolute pleasure to read. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate.
All right, all the best.
See you next time.
Thanks, Ian. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Anyone with half a brain knows it's not a book for children.
Okay, all right.
But
She wasn't reading it to young children.
I wasn't reading it to children.
It wasn't on Play School. It wasn't on Play School, you clown.
No, it's the kind of response that ignorance engenders about what was happening. If you're going to worry about the welfare of young children, why don't we give the people who are in control of advertising standards a little bit more teeth?
They're not
so that,
swearing
hang
on
on,
national
can I
television.
finish?
They're not
I'm not swearing on national television.
No.
They put it on. I didn't put it on.
Good response.
And have you not watched any program beyond 8:30 at night on any channel in Australia?
Those children are asleep by then, I think.
Well, that's the idea, hopefully. But, can I just say, I'm much more concerned about things that parents can't control their children's access to, such as offensive billboards, such as, the kind of things that are on magazine covers at child height. And, if parents have got half a brain, and I assume most of them do have at least a half a brain, they understand that what I did is for them.